Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Mm.
You know how we do things around here. We pick a juicy topic, grab some smart sources, and really get into it. And today's a good one. We're talking all about AI and how it's totally changing the game for software engineers.
I know, right? It's one of those things that you hear about constantly these days, AI this, AI that, but we're going deeper than just the hype.
Exactly. We're lucky to have you here to help us break it all down. We've got this Forbes article that really lays out how AI is revolutionizing how we build software. And it's not just for the techies either. This impacts all of us.
Yeah, if you use software, which is pretty much everyone these days, then you're going to feel the ripple effects of this AI wave.
So let's get right into it. One of the most talked about things is how AI is changing the way developers actually write code. We're talking about tools like GitHub Copilot, right?
Right. Copilot is a great example of how AI is becoming like a partner for developers. Like imagine you're a developer and you're working on this complex piece of code. With Copilot, you can basically just write a comment explaining what you want the code to do, almost like giving instructions in plain English.
Uh-huh. Planning goes to code. That's wild.
And then, boom, Copilot goes and suggests an entire chunk of code that does exactly that. It's like having an AI pair programmer sitting right there with you, helping you write better code faster.
So instead of getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty of every line of code, developers can focus on the higher level stuff, like the overall logic and design of the software.
Yeah, exactly. It lets them think more strategically and creatively. Because before, developers had to spend so much time just typing out code, the actual nuts and bolts of it all.
Right, like the building blocks, but now AI can take care of some of those building blocks.
Exactly. So developers can spend more time on the blueprint, the bigger picture. That's where the real innovation happens.
Makes sense. So AI is freeing up their brain power for the more complex and interesting stuff.
Right, and that leads to better software, which is good for everyone.
Absolutely. And this Forbes article goes into how AI is also transforming the often dreaded process of debugging.
Oh, debugging, every developer's favorite thing. Or not, it can be a real-time sync.
Yeah, you picture developers spending hours, days even, just trying to track down one tiny error that's causing the whole program to crash.
Exactly. It's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes. But now, AI-powered debugging tools are like bringing in a high-tech metal detector to that haystack.
Uh-huh. Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So how does that actually work? How does AI make debugging easier?
Well, these AI tools can analyze massive amounts of code, way more than a human could ever do in a reasonable amount of time. And they can find patterns and identify potential errors before they even become a problem.
So it's like having a superpowered detective on the case, looking for clues that might indicate a future crime, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. It's like predictive policing, but for software. And the results are pretty impressive. The article cited some research showing that some AI debugging tools can cut debugging time in half.
Wow, that's a huge time saver. And less buggy software means fewer headaches for all of us users, too. Okay, so we've talked about coding and debugging. What other aspects of software engineering are being impacted by AI?
Well, pretty much everything, honestly. AI is getting really good at automating tasks, like those repetitive, time-consuming things that used to take up so much of a developer's time.
Makes sense. So it's not just about writing code anymore. It's about the entire process of creating software from start to finish.
Exactly. Take testing, for example.
Yeah.
Traditionally, developers had to manually run tests every time they made a change to the code to make sure everything was working properly. But now, AI can automate a lot of that testing process.
So it's like having a robot QA team that's always on the job, making sure everything is running smoothly.
Exactly. And because of that, developers can focus on things like, building new features or making the software more user-friendly, all that good stuff that makes a difference to the people using the software.
Right. And then there's documentation. I can't tell you how many times I've struggled with a user manual that was clearly written by someone who spoke fluent code, but not so much plain English.
Oh, I hear you there. But the good news is AI is changing that too. You've probably heard about NLP, natural language processing, right? Well, AI powered by NLP can be used to generate documentation automatically from the code.
So the code basically writes its own instructions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it means that user manuals and things like that can be kept up to date automatically, so no more head-scratching moments trying to figure out how to use the software.
Definitely a win for everyone. The article also mentions DevOps. Can you remind us what DevOps is and how AI is shaking things up there?
Sure. DevOps is all about getting software from the developers to the users as smoothly and efficiently as possible. It involves things like deploying the code to servers, monitoring the software's performance, and making sure everything is running as it should.
So keeping the software healthy and happy once it's out in the wild.
Exactly. And AI is great at automating a lot of those tasks. It can monitor things in real time, spot potential problems, and even fix them before they cause a major outage.
Sounds like AI is taking on a lot of the roles traditionally done by humans. That brings up a question about security. Does using AI in software development create any new security risks?
That's a really important point, and it's definitely something that developers are very aware of. The good news is that AI can also be used to make software more secure.
So AI can be a double-edged sword in a way.
Kind of, yeah. It depends on how it's used. But AI is being used to develop some really sophisticated security tools that can analyze code for vulnerabilities in real time, much like those debugging tools we talked about earlier.
So AI can be used to identify potential security holes before hackers can exploit them.
Exactly. It's like having an AI security guard constantly patrolling your software, looking for anything suspicious.
That's reassuring. This Forbes article even talks about AI being used to breathe new life into old code bases. What's that all about?
Yeah, legacy systems. Those are the older software systems that are often still critical to businesses, but are really expensive and difficult to maintain.
Right, because they were built using outdated technology and haven't kept up with the times.
Right. And trying to update those systems can be a nightmare. But AI is now being used to analyze legacy code, find those parts that really need updating, and suggest ways to modernize it without having to completely rewrite everything.
So it's like taking an old house and renovating it instead of tearing it down and building a new one.
Exactly. It's much more efficient and cost effective. And it allows those legacy systems to keep running smoothly, which is essential for a lot of organizations.
Well, this has been a fascinating look at how AI is changing the landscape of software engineering. It seems like it's impacting every stage of the process.
Absolutely. And this is really just the beginning. As AI continues to evolve, it's only going to become more powerful and versatile. We're likely to see even more innovative applications of AI in software engineering in the years to come.
That makes you wonder what new opportunities or even ethical challenges might come up as AI becomes more and more intertwined with how we build software.
For sure. There's a lot to think about there, like who's responsible when an AI system makes a mistake? Or how do we ensure that these powerful AI tools are used ethically and responsibly? Lots of big questions to ponder as we move forward.
Definitely something for all of us to keep in mind as AI becomes a bigger part of our lives, not just in software, but in everything. Great stuff. Thanks for breaking it all down for us. Until next time.
Happy to be here.